Nvidia just made a massive correction as there is a lot of misinformation around the Hopper platform. We're also seeing Google stock is up over 6% after hours. The stock is sitting at $225. Apple is actually up on those news as well. And there are a lot of acquisitions and overall valuation increases happening in the AI space that I think all type of AI stock investors should know. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. All right, so let's start off with Nvidia. The stock market was pretty much red for most of the early morning until about 12 o'clock, right? We kind of saw a little bit of reversal. This reversal kind of tells me why I'm a long-term investor and not a trader or one that's looking for just short-term investment ideas. Because look, if you were extremely bearish or got scared out of Nvidia at $167 at 12 o'clock, you're going to be kicking yourself as the stock went back up to $170 in just a few hours. So I want to start off with Nvidia. Nvidia kind of posted that there's been a lot of error or misinformation chatter in the media claiming that Nvidia is supply constrained and sold out of H100 and H200s. Now I'm going to show something in a bit of what Nvidia actually said during the earnings call, but as they noted in earnings, their cloud partners can rent every H100, H200 they have online, but that doesn't mean we're unable to fulfill new orders. We have more than enough H100, H200 to satisfy every order without delay. The rumor that H20 reduces our supply of either H100, H200, or Blackwell is also false. Selling H20 has no impact on our ability to supply other Nvidia products. So first, I want to start off with the bottom one. I think the bottom one is very important information. Many people believe that because to build certain types of semiconductor solutions, if you're using a supply chain line for one product, it means you're reducing the supply chain line from another. So for example, if NVIDIA wants to build H20, you're going to be reducing the supply chain line of your H100 or your H200 or your Blackwell. NVIDIA says this is necessarily false. They can build H20 and their overall products will see no change in supply overall. So I think that's really good because it does dictate that NVIDIA can continue to build out on their expensive products without really having to worry too much about kind of their lower margin products and vice versa. Now, the other thing, right? There's kind of this error happening in the market right now where NVIDIA says, where the market is saying that NVIDIA is sold out. Now, I was a bit curious. So I kind of created, I went to the transcript and tried to see what NVIDIA really said about the Hopper. Now, before we continue with the rest of the episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Moomoo, for supporting the show. They're a fantastic trading platform and their current sign-up bonus is genuinely unbelievable. You have to hear this right now. Moomoo is giving new US users up to $1,000 in free NVIDIA stock just for opening and funding an account. As if that wasn't enough, you also get a massive 8.1% APY on your cash for a limited time. It all depends on how much you deposit, but even putting in just $100 gets you $20 in NVIDIA shares to start. This deal runs from August 1st to September 25th, so don't miss out. Already with another brokerage? No problem. Transfer your assets to Moomoo and they'll give you a 3% bonus match on the first $1 to $20,000 you transfer in. Aside from these awesome promotions, Moomoo has some genuinely useful tools, especially if you're researching AI stocks like I am. My favorite feature, and they're always adding new ones, is the analyst rating tool. It's a game changer. You can see an analyst price target and then click their name to see their entire track record for that stock. Find an analyst you trust, set an alert, and get notified the second they make a new call. Seriously, check them out. Click the link below and take advantage of Moomoo's amazing offer today. So Colette, the VP, the CFO of NVIDIA, mentioned the following. Notably, in the quarter, there was an increase in Hopper 100 and H200 shipments. Later on, she says that the sequential increase in Hopper demand indicates the breadth of data center workloads that run on accelerated computing and power of CUDA libraries and full-stack optimizations, which continuously enhance the performance and economic value of our platforms. So first, when I first read this, and we actually talked about this a few days ago, is it just showcases that we are extremely compute constrained in the market and companies are willing to buy the H100s and the H200s, right? Because if they need more compute and the H100 and H200 are still great products. But we didn't see anything about being sold out. What we saw was a sequential increase. Now, I do believe a lot of the misinformation is coming from some commentary that Jensen made during the Q&A section. So he starts off by saying, right now, the buzz is. So I think that indication maybe Jensen was trying to portray something different, kind of just saying what the market excitement is happening and not necessarily the actual Nvidia news. And I think this is what's kind of creating that misinformation. So right now the buzz is, I'm sure all you know about the buzz out there. The buzz is everything sold out. H100 sold out, H200 sold out. Large cloud server providers are coming out renting capacity from other cloud server providers. So Jensen himself said at least, maybe not intentionally, that the H100 and the H200 are sold out. He did indicate it that it is the buzz. And again, it's pretty much the buzz. When I think of it, it's kind of looking like more the market perception. But I wanted to be sure if I was thinking the right way. So I kind of went off to AI and I was like, hey, what do you think is the reason Nvidia kind of corrected this? And even though Jensen kind of talked about it, and the first thing is just the comments, right? So the buzz and the number thing was just the context of Jensen was he was suggesting that he was describing market perception rather than stating NVIDIA's actual supply capacity. The other thing is there could be a different definition of sold out. Maybe Jensen was referring about immediate spots available or existing inventory. NVIDIA's clarification likely refers to their ability to fulfill contracted orders and production capacity. Then when we're talking about timing and supply management, NVIDIA likely wanted to clarify that while demand is extremely high, they maintain production capacity to fulfill orders. So as an NVIDIA stock investor, I think the only top indication that you should take out of this is the Hopper is still strong demand. It's still, even though it is the last architecture or the architecture before the Blackwell, it still seems strong demand due to NVIDIA strength, their NVIDIA software solutions, their overall hardware platform, their networking solutions. So as a long-term investor, I don't think there is anything really to read between this. I really did like kind of more of that thought process on the H20. Now, after that, I want to kind of move on to Google. So Google, the stock is up roughly 6.5% after hours. All right, so here we are on the Moomoo platform. For those that are not familiar, there is a Google monopoly case. And right now there was a lot of fear in Google stock, right? Because of uncertainty that they might have to sell off Google search. Now, the ruling came out and the district judge, Meta, said on Tuesday that the search giant would not have to sell its Chrome web browser. So you are eliminating a lot of uncertainty here from Google, which causes the stock price to go up. Now, there was also another thing that Google also won't be barred from paying Apple to make Google the default search provider on its devices. The court said it could still revisit that part of the ruling in the future. Now, there are some things to understand, but this is one of the reasons Apple's stock is up, because they can continue to get money from Google, where Apple is going to put Google as the default browser from the get-go. Now, Google also won't be prevented from making payments to distribution partners for preloading Google Search, Chrome, or its Gen AI products into any of its distribution partners. What they will not be able to do is enter exclusive contracts that relate to any of those: Google Search, Chrome, Google Assistant, and the Gemini app, the ruling ad. So right now, Google can pay its way into becoming the default feature, but it can't pay its way into becoming the only search feature, the only Chrome, the only assistant, the only Gemini application or AI application into whatever partnership it has. Now, in forms of its advertisement solution, the company will also have to share certain search index data with competitors, a ruling that could benefit, obviously, a lot of search companies in the ad space. It can also help out kind of AI search providers like Perplexity and OpenAI. Now, one of the main reasons that this rule kind of changed, and it so much has changed since the last year, is much has changed in the tech world over the course of last year since the decision. One of the major things is general artificial intelligence is a game changer. And that's the emergence of generative AI changed the course of this case. That is pretty crazy that if this maybe would have happened 2 years ago, the ruling would have been different. But because of the emergence of generative AI solution, it has created maybe some room for competition to pick back up. So that's the main reason that we see a nice kind of price action here on Google and on Apple as well, because now Apple is going to continue to get that many, many billions of dollars a year from Google to be that default search engine. Now, luckily in this channel, we've been talking about Google since the stock was hitting the 150s this past earlier this year, right? 152. This became one of my biggest positions in my overall portfolio, right? Nowhere near the size of Nvidia. Now that we're seeing this after hour movement, I am super, super excited. So this is why I talk about that long-term investment, because overall, the market here, we can see it with Google, extremely, extremely choppy throughout the way. But now we're going to be sitting at new all-time highs, which I am super excited. Open up the market tomorrow. Let's get that ready. So now outside of Google, right, I want to talk about some of the AI news happening as well. So first, Anthropic, another major AI generative company. For those that are not familiar, they're the ones that provide Claude, right? Claude is another kind of AI agent. They raised about $13 billion on their Series F at 183 post-money valuation. That is insane. Anthropic is worth more than some of my semiconductor companies out there, which is pretty much wild. Now, one thing that I found pretty interesting is a lot of the significant investors in this round included were mainly like major banks and investment firms. I didn't really see many public companies. Usually you kind of see like your Google, your Nvidia or whatever. I didn't really see they did well, they didn't mention them in the significant investors in this round. Is that telling that, hey, look, why are these AI companies buying more equity in Anthropic? Is that signaling some form of maybe quick top bullish thesis, at least for Anthropic there, if it's only banking companies? So something that I noticed there. Now, the company did mention that at the beginning of 2025, less than 2 years after launch, Anthropic's run rate of revenue had grown to approximately $1 billion per year. By August 2025, just 8 months later, their run rate revenue reached over $5 billion. Now, they mentioned that this overall investment will expand their capacity to meet growing enterprise demand. Pretty much, they're going to buy a lot more AI GPUs and pretty much build up more AI server solutions. Obviously, they do have a great partnership with Amazon, so it could be using kind of like the Trainium solution, but regardless, is going to go back into the AI infrastructure market. Now, so overall bullish, in my opinion, for the whole economics of the semiconductor state in the AI market. Now, OpenAI also announced an acquisition. And this is pretty interesting because with the acquisition, it seems like the acquisition is second. The most important was kind of like the acquiring of the CTO or the CEO of that company is now the CTO of applications. But it seems like it's more of like a talent acquisition than anything else. So they mentioned that Raji, I'm pretty sure I butchered that name. The founder and CEO of StatSig is the company that they acquire, will join OpenAI as the CTO of applications. Now, for a quick backlog or a quick background on the CEO. Now, the CTO of OpenAI's application, he founded this company. Prior to founding this company, he worked at Microsoft. Prior to that, he also worked at Facebook, where he built Messenger for Windows, Facebook Marketplace, and a lot of ways to kind of communicate and kind of create this social application. Now, the company that they are acquiring is called StatsIG or StatSig. I'm not sure. StatsIG, whichever. But what they pretty much do is they are a data platform that you're able to test A and B, do A and B testing on some form of application to see what works the best and what helps you kind of grow your consumer the fastest. Now, that's exactly what OpenAI wants to do, right? It seems like they want to build applications. And now that this person has experience on building new consumer and B2B products and systems at scale, he's joining at a time when their models are opening entirely new ways to build. And his leadership will help turn that progress into safe applications. So pretty much I think it was more of an acquisition of talent because the company StatsIG, or again, that company that they're acquiring, is still going to be working as its own entity. It will continue operating independently and serving its customers based out of its Seattle office, even though all the workers are now part of OpenAI. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you all next time.